Сказка взята из пособия Once There Were. Это пособие было издано в 1966 году, еще в Ленинграде. Я решила дать новую жизнь старым книгам и читать интересные истории, рассказы из старых книг. Конечно, сейчас уже в продаже их почти не найти, но тем не менее те, которые еще остались. А у меня очень большая коллекция пособий, и учебников, и книг для чтения. Я думаю дать этим книгам вторую жизнь и заодно порадовать вас. Давайте подождем кого-нибудь, кто к нам присоединится. Буквально пару секундочек и начнем сказку. Давайте немножечко перед началом сказки расскажу. Возможно, для вас будут некоторые слова новыми. Я выбрала слово «miserly». «Miserly» означает «жадный», «скупой». В тексте будет неоднократно это слово встречаться. Возможно, будет незнакомым слово «part», что означает «часть». Думаю, остальные слова, они будут вам понятны, потому что рассчитаны на детей. Начальный уровень, уровень А1. У нас уже кто-то есть на связи. Ну хорошо, давайте я начну чтение, а остальные присоединятся позже. The Two Friends. Once there were two farmers, Tom and Jack. Tom was a very kind man, but Jack was miserly. One day they went to town together. They walked all day, and in the evening they were hungry, so they stopped to eat. Jack, the miserly farmer, said, "Oh, I can't open my bag, and I have all my bread there." "You may eat my bread," said Tom. So they ate the kind farmer's bread, and then they went to sleep. In the morning, Jack thought, "Yesterday I ate Tom's bread. Today he must eat my bread, but I don't want to give it to him. I shall go on now without Tom, and then I can eat all the bread myself." And the miserly man got up and walked away. Soon Tom got up too. He saw that his friend wasn't there, so he went on alone without any food. So it was part 1, первая часть. Part 2. In the evening Tom came to a forest. In the middle of the forest he saw a little house and he went in. On the table there was a large piece of bread. Tom cut off a small piece, ate it, and went to sleep under a bench. Soon a mouse, a fox, and a bear came into the house. They sat down round the table, and the mouse said, "Do you know that there is a big bag behind the stove, and in that bag there is much silver money?" The fox said, "That's nothing." "Do you know that under the old tree behind the house there is a piece of silver big as a dog's head?" And the bear said, "That is nothing. Do you know that under the bench in the yard there is a piece of gold as big as a horse's head?" Then the bear took the bread that was on the table and cut it into 3 parts. Each of the animals ate his piece and then went to sleep. The mouse slept behind the stove, the fox slept on the bench, and the bear slept on the floor in the middle of the room. The farmer heard everything, and in the morning, when the animals went away, he came out from under the bench. He looked behind the stove and found the bag with the silver money. Then he went to the old tree behind the house, and there, under the tree, he found a piece of silver as big as a dog's head. Then he went to the bench in the yard, and under the bench he found the piece of gold as big as a horse's head. He took the bag with the silver money, the piece of silver as big as a dog's head, and the piece of gold as big as a horse's head, and went home. This is the end of part 2. Now, part 3. The final one. Jack soon heard that his friend Tom was a rich man now. He ran to the kind farmer's house and asked Tom to tell him the whole story. The kind farmer told him his story, and Jack ran at once to the little house in the middle of the forest. He went into the house, and on the table he found a large piece of bread. He cut off a small piece and ate it. But Jack was miserly, so he took the rest of the bread and then lay down under the bench. Soon the mouse, the fox, and the bear came into the house. They sat down round the table, and the bear said, "Do you know that the piece of gold as big as a horse's head is gone?" The fox said, "Do you know that the piece of silver as big as a dog's head is gone too?" And the mouse ran behind the stove and cried, "And that is not all! The bag of silver money is gone too." The bear thought for a moment and then said, "Somebody heard what we said yesterday." Then he went to the table and wanted to cut the bread into 3 parts, as he always did. But there was no bread. The bread was gone. "That man must be here now. Little mouse, run and look for him. You will find him under the bench or behind the stove." The mouse ran about the room and soon found the man under the bench. The animals pulled him out and ate him up. After that they went to sleep, the mouse behind the stove, the fox on the bench, and the bear on the floor, in the middle of the room. Вот такая сказка, друзья. Поделитесь своими впечатлениями в комментарии. Понравилась ли вам она? Или, может быть, нет? Если понравилось, ставьте пальчик вверх. И до новых встреч. Доброй ночи. Приятных снов. Пока-пока. See you.